How's it, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Exponential Africa. I'm Mic Mann, your host, and we've got an amazing show for you today, bringing you the very best thought leadership in tech and innovation from across the globe. We are very fortunate for today to have somebody that's a dear friend and is doing something that is very close to my own heart and my own passions and commitments, really exploring what is the Open Metaverse and how do we create this interoperability between different metaverses. And we are very fortunate to have Batis Samadian with us here today, all the way from Zurich.
Hi.
And Batis is hi, Batis, how are you doing?
Yeah, doing great. How are you doing? Great to connect.
All good. And just to, do you want to tell us, instead of me introducing you, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. So hi, everyone. I'm Batis. I am one of the co-founders of OMA3, which is the Metaverse Alliance, and previously also the CEO of a virtual world company called Space. I've been in tech for, I don't know, a good about 13, 14, 15 years. Started out in doing a music SaaS platform while I was at college. Got into crypto while I was at the University of British Columbia back in 2013. I then worked in a couple of different fields in tech startups, worked for IoT startup, worked for a venture studio focused on virtual reality, was the head of product for a 50-minute delivery startup. And then I did Space, which was the shopping virtual world. And essentially, when I started Space, I kind of came to some realizations, which led to the OMA3 Foundation association that we started.
Very, very cool. And I mean, it's pretty amazing that how we go through life and we evolve and change what we do. I mean, it sounds like you've always been interested in technology as a platform and an enabling platform from your past.
Absolutely, yeah. Enabling is definitely one of the words that have pushed my passion, I would say. It's always been about enabling. It's always been about consumer tech or B2B2C tech that I found really fascinating, where, basically new technology enables people to do great things and allows creators to become enabled to also create what was previously difficult to create. So yeah, that's definitely been what's inspired me all the time.
Awesome. Yeah. And I mean, for us, at Africa Rare and Singularity South Africa, we've been fortunate enough to join OMA3, which is the Open Metaverse Alliance. Tell me a bit about how, so it started with Dirk Luth from Upland, right? Maybe share with us how you guys, came up with OMA3 and what is the Open Metaverse?
Yeah, for sure. So the story is basically, when I started the company Space, it became very clear to me that many people and the founders around me working on virtual worlds have this very similar vision, that we are getting close to a future where we're moving from a text-based and multimedia-based internet to a spatial version of the internet, which at the time, the way to describe it was the metaverse. We think of the metaverse as really the entire internet, the 3D internet in many ways, and how this will change everything of how we consume, how we query information, how we portal between different worlds and contents that are in 3D. And it seemed very clear to me that, well, okay, we believe this is going to happen, but it hasn't happened. And in fact, quite a lot of the infrastructure that we're all betting on to happen, not many people are really working on it full time. And so it kind of gave me this kind of like moment of concern where I was like, hey, if I believe in what I'm doing and everyone around me really wants to see the future fruits of labor of what they're working on right now, then someone's got to roll up their sleeves and try and create the infrastructure, create protocols, standardize these protocols, get buy-in from a lot of the virtual worlds that are going to become content worlds. And I think the hypotheses changed over time of like what this exactly means or what our role as a virtual world in it is. But nonetheless, it became very clear that, okay, well, if we're not trying to tackle this, we're not really doing much for the success of our market. And Dirk, who actually wrote a book about what the open metaverse would be, very much shared this opinion with me when we ran into each other in New York at one of these conferences. And so, we sat down, we had a coffee, we saw eye to eye about this, and we realized, okay, we actually both know quite a few people who invested in either of us who see this the same way and that are anticipating this technology, this protocol to come out. And so we started recruiting. We realized, once people understand what you're saying, they're bought in, right? And so we decided, hey, we don't want to be a round table of knights kind of association where we just talk and stuff. We really want to be a consortium that also is an active consortium in the sense that we also research technology. We also do R&D. We look into creating protocols and then standardizing it if we can get buy-in from a lot of the technology companies in Web3. And fundamentally, we all share a very equal concern and desire for what the internet of tomorrow will look like, right? And being, quite early involved in Web3, I think we all hope that the future is a lot more transparent, a lot more privacy focused, a lot more user ownership focused in this next iteration of the internet, right? Hence Web3. And so we were very fundamentally concerned that once things become spatial, 3D, VR, mixed reality based, there is a lot more to be worried about, right? Wallets getting robbed, being intercepted in your traversing between a world. And, you've seen what the nightmare can look like in sci-fi movies or like Wreck-It Ralph, where a scammer ad basically portals you to a wrong place, clears your wallet, or misinformation. And we just have a grave concern about data collection, misinformation, and lack of data provenance that will happen in this next iteration of the web, where you're querying 3D objects and 3D worlds of content. And so we want to basically stand up for this and make sure that this next iteration is more concerned about the user than in the favor of just companies.
Amazing. I mean, I think it's a great mission, and it's a great it's a great challenge, because it's not easy. Being part of the group for the last year and a half, we've done some amazing work, all the different working groups, and we'll get into some of that now about what we're actually trying to achieve. But there's a lot of work going on from some amazing members. I think OMA3 is on 100 members or something now, and maybe tell us a little bit about some of the companies that are in OMA3. Who's like the various driving forces that are helping us, create this open.
So it's quite easy to join OMA3. We're a consortium based here in Switzerland. You just go on OMA3.org. There's a button that says join us. You can become a member right away. That way, independent or as a company. Like you said, we've got about 100 members. This includes people like Anchain, Alien Worlds, Decentralised, Voxels, Animoca Brands, Engine, Identity.org. Of course, yourselves at Africa Rare, the Sandbox, OVR. Essentially, I would say really all the companies that are working on virtual worlds, spatial information, spatial addressing registries, Upland, obviously, Unstoppable Domains. We're a very big group of people that are all quite passionate and concerned about the same thing for the future. And so the way that it works is so we think of ourselves as a very active consortium, right? We're trying to avoid being anything close to like a round table of knights that just has discussions. We're here to create experimental R&D, create potential open protocols, and also define standards. And so we have working groups focused on the ecosystem at large, NFT standardization, portaling and mapping, where I'm a lead, and token and infrastructure, and what all of this means for the future. And of course, part of all of that is also things like identity, security, and legal, right? And so, the deeper you think about it, like there is a major opportunity to rewrite the rules of how we can provide both user protection in the next iteration of the internet, as well as how can we simplify a lot of how things work on the internet today. And so, as you know, you're part of my portaling and mapping working group. Here specifically, we're concerned about, I think, the thing that users will feel the most, which is when I'm going from one world to another world, or through the library of all content amassed from an aggregation of all the virtual worlds. How do you do this? How do you traverse across platforms, across games, across 3D information worlds? And the answer is portaling, traversing, address registry, mapping, and of course, all kind of like also scalability concerns about how do you traverse between worlds that are install-based or web-based, and having this two-way portaling functionality. And so generally, the way I look at it is that whenever we are concerned about anything related to the open web, open metaverse, we try and go very deep. We try and spec out what we would love the future to look like. And from there, we also, like in the portaling and mapping group, create an experimental subgroup. And this subgroup basically are devoted people who are devoted to coding jams, where we experimentally do research and development and try and solve these problems. And so in this case, we do have a V0 iteration of what we think will be the way of how you will traverse between content worlds. So it's been very exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, no, thanks. What I was going to say, I love the idea, that it's built on is the sense of collaboration and coming together as a community and an industry to try solve some of the problems that we all face. Instead of just doing it alone, or being sort of out in space by ourselves. We're all trying to work together to make this entire ecosystem work. And it's just, it's part of it totally encompasses our spirit of Ubuntu, which is an African proverb. It means I am because we are. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
That's cool.
It's pretty incredible. And I also just want to maybe just to give people an example. So you would, if you purchase a digital asset, say in Africa Rare in Ubuntu land, you could then take that asset, portal it to, say, the sandbox, or to my neighbor Alice, or to another metaverse. And so you would arrive as your character or a different character, and you'll be able to carry that asset with you. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, I think in general, we all have basically a very similar vision, which I think is what brings us together, right? We think of what tomorrow's open web generally will look like, and then we think, okay, well, if we want to get there, this and this and this are the infrastructural problems that are stopping us from getting there, both on the scalability side, security side, fundamental protocols that enable that. And I think, like you say, the end user use case that people will be most familiar with is thinking about it. Okay, so I am this identity. Let's say this is what I look like as my my Unreal Engine-based metahuman. And when I want to go from this world to another world, do I want to go in the shape and form of this identity, and potentially what Web3 version of cookies I carry with me, and my history log or my backpack that's in my MetaMask with me into this world? Or do I want to go as another identity? Or do I want to go, as a guest shape and form? And we're familiar with this, like, normal browser, incognito browser, guest browsers, different logged in browser versions. It's just that once things become spatial, your identity matters more than ever. And there's more at risk, assets, currencies, etc. And I think what is fundamentally important is that, well, initial use cases are probably going to be around entertainment and game. I think that before we start having like a 3D CNN or news platforms, we're going to have basically MMO type game and entertainment experiences, right? And so because of that, and events, but because of that, the things that will matter to that kind of customer and user base has a lot to do with what the shape and form of that identity is, the assets they carry. And it's actually very cool because if you remember, in the early 2000s, we were always thinking like, hey, well, what if this one game would work on the PlayStation and the Xbox and the Nintendo and all of this together, right? And like, we realized, well, in the walled garden business model, this makes absolutely no sense. Why would they do us this favor? Once in a while, you would see like fused world video game releases, right? Where like, I don't know, the Dragon Balls fight the Pokemon or something like that. But in an open web kind of structure for kind of like an aggregation of all virtual worlds and their data, all of that happens all the time. And you enter with whatever identity you want into any game or any sort of entertainment event-based experience. And so there are a lot of, technological problems to resolve to make that possible.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I think also if you didn't take on this challenge, we wouldn't create the adoption and for people to want to get involved and to want to take part. It's much more appealing and an enriching experience if you could purchase something like you would purchase in a physical environment. You move houses, you want to take your stuff from your house to your new apartment or your new house or your new country that you move to.
Yeah, so, I think the two very easy examples that people can understand the problem better is if you think of where are autonomous cars and smart cars going in the future, and what are smart homes in the future going to look like? Independently, there are other consortiums with very different but similar types of problems where an entire market can only evolve if we have an aligned vision and an understanding and standardization of a certain set of technologies. Think about, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, what was possible before Bluetooth, right? And if we didn't all agree that this is an easy way to connect information, where would we be right now, right? Similarly, if you think about, how much cars are going to need to speak to each other.
Yeah,
absolutely. And that's the best way to think about what virtual worlds will be in the future and why we need to be able to speak to each other to create this new library of content.
It's really exciting, and I think just to end off, tell us where you see it. Where are we going in the next couple of years? Are we years off on this? How close are we to reaching this interoperability between metaverses, and where do you see it going in the future, in the near and far future?
Yeah, I have a general theory, which is 3D content and 3D worlds content needs to get to at least an equivalent moment of like the ARPANET, like all the US libraries connected in data. And I think we are very close to that. I think we're somewhere like probably 12 to 20 month horizon of having the first equivalent of an ARPANET moment for 3D content. From there, moving forward, I think there's just like general like societal milestones for adoption that we will see. But I think all of it has to do with base protocols that solve problems around identity, traversing, mapping, spatial address registry. Okay. Once those are solved, it will be an adoption topic, right? So getting all the virtual worlds to agree that this protocol solves the problem, standardizing it, getting everyone to agree that, hey, please implement this. Let's move forward with this. And then come the user kind of adoption kind of challenges as well as opportunities. So can we get gamers to understand the value of this traversing? Can we get people who are querying 3D information to understand the value of this form of faster access, right? A really good way to think about this is, so many games and many worlds are built in many different ways, okay? They're not standardized like HTML or something like that. Therefore, there are web-based virtual worlds, there are install-based virtual worlds, and then there are all these devices as well, right? And in an ideal scenario, your Minecraft player on Nintendo, or maybe not, no, that one is already kind of figured out, but what you would want is that you have the ability to join your friend in a virtual world that you haven't yet downloaded or that you don't have access to, and have that portaling happen in a very clean experience type of way, right? Like, I would say the messy is, me and you're playing, I don't know, let's say Call of Duty, right? Or you want me to join and I'm right now in Africa Rare's world. And you're like, oh, come join me in Call of Duty. You draw this portal, we both transcend into this portal, and the game starts opening on my desktop. And traveling from web to desktop and from desktop to web or to another console are part of these fundamental technical problems that need to be solved so that a metaverse or 3D web traversing is possible across this much heavier type of multimedia content.
Fascinating.
Yeah,
I think it's really
cool.
exciting, and we could talk about this for hours. We have just run out of time, but I think it's
we can talk about it another time as well.
And we'll definitely love to have you back on the show. And I don't know if you know Ray Kurzweil, who's one of the founders of Singularity University.
Of course. Yeah.
So he predicts that by 2029 we'll be able to reverse engineer the human brain, and the computer becomes as smart as the human brain. And we'll also, at that time, he predicts we'll connect our neocortex to the cloud, so that we'll be able to enter these different virtual worlds just by thinking or flicking our eyes. It will be connected to our biology. So we'll really be able to explore and traverse, in ways we never thought were possible without a headset and with, just by connecting it to our own biology as we get deeper and deeper and more connected with technology.
Super cool.
But thanks so much for having me. Maybe just if you could just to end off, just mention again where folks can learn more about OMA3 and how to sign up if you're in the metaverse or spatial web.
Absolutely. If you're passionate about this problem, if you want to learn more, if you want to contribute to us or help us in any way, you just go on OMA3.org, and then in the top right corner you can click join us, and you'll learn all about us on the OMA3.org website.
Brilliant. Batis, thanks for being with us today, and
absolutely,
we'll catch you on the next
for having me,
everybody. Thanks everyone. Catch you later. Ciao.